In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
K98 Talk is expanding its lineup for 2015. This means we're expanding our advertising base. Whether you're a startup trying to push through to the next level or an established business trying to supplement your advertising budget, Web-based advertising is a solid investment. Thanks to Talk's newest partnership with TuneIn Radio and instant access to our sister station, K98 FM, we give you worldwide access at a reasonable cost. Interested parties should email us at advertise@k98talk.org. The leader in talk radio on the internet, right here on K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems. Well, perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them.
Republicans and Democrats.
All right, folks. Well, it is Saturday morning, just a few minutes past the hour of 10 Eastern, right here on Finding Common Ground. I am the conservative half of this crew, Mr. Rick Robinson, also regular host of America Off the Rails, heard coast to coast, nationwide, and around the world on the internet and terrestrial radio. And of course, I am joined today by my normal leftist co-chair friend, Mr. Bryce Robbins, who has graciously assumed the left chair since my original host, Dave Brown, had to recuse himself due to scheduling issues. It's been a couple of weeks since we have done the show because I have been officially moving and changing my entire life and schedule around, but things are somewhat getting back to normal. Good morning, Bryce. Let's start with this. How are you? We haven't really talked much lately because I've been running around like a crazy person.
Understandably so, and same. I'm actually wide awake, and I probably will be for the next couple weeks, months actually. Because on my Saturday mornings at 5:45, I wake up for swim practice. So, welcome, I'm awake.
Hang on. You're awake for Finding Common Ground? Who are you and what have you done with Bryce?
Exactly. No, I was just at swim practice for like 2 hours. So, let's do this. Let's debate.
All right. So, speaking of debates, there was the most recent conservative debate, which was run on Fox Business News. Now, Bryce actually sent me a message after that debate was over, and I thought it was important that we discuss that. Now, it would normally make sense that since the message was directed at me, I'd be the one to read it. However, I live out in the country now, and my internet kind of says, hey, what are you thinking? So we're going to go ahead and let Bryce write the message or read the message, which kind of makes sense because it'll be kind of like the movies when somebody's reading a message that came from somebody else and you can hear it through their voice. So it kind of makes sense. So go ahead and share with the folks the message that you sent me shortly after the most recent debate.
Sure, I can kind of just picture you like holding a letter and just hearing my voice reading it. But anyways, to the letter. Finding common ground, rather than has kept me as the fighting liberal, has turned me into a subjective thinker. It has broken me more so from the herd of sheeple our society has become. Tonight I watched the debates, and wow, build a wall? Yes. Zero-based budgeting? Yes. Strong military? Yes. No TPP? Yes. Fuck Iran? And radical Islam? I mean, I'll skip that little part. Yes. Do not raise the minimum wage? Kind of agree. Raise to $10, but then the free market. The only thing that holds me back is quite honestly the social stances. The LGBT stances, the stances on science, and what seems to be in the environment are what keep me clenched. And today, as I realize what a different thinker I am, I must thank you, Finding Common Ground, and Dave, and K98. Thank you, guys.
And yes, that was what greeted me in my inbox first thing Wednesday morning. And I have to admit, I reread it 3 times because I thought somebody hacked him. I'm just saying.
It was very... I'll be honest. The debates, the Republican candidates, I think none of them are really that great. But some of the policies that they spit out here and there, I must agree with. Now, when I hear someone like Carly Fiorina talk about abortion, I think it's off topic, right? Because I don't really think that she can change it, and I think that some of the things she says are a little too much. But then she talked about zero-based budgeting. And I think, wow, that's a really great idea. And that's exactly what you always talk about. I hear Donald Trump saying how terrible the TPP is. You hear them all talking about securing our borders, building a wall. And these things just make sense to me. Donald Trump even said, you want to talk about a wall that works, look at Israel's wall. And I've always been saying that. Some Republicans argue to raise the minimum wage a slight bit. I know Rick Santorum does. But others say that we shouldn't. And to be quite honest, I've been doing a lot of research in economics as well. In my economics classes, I've been really thinking and just seeing how it makes very little sense to raise the minimum wage, especially for fast food workers, to $15 an hour seems ridiculous. And I don't know, reading the news lately, I've been watching, Bill de Blasio, because of course I live right by Mr. de Blasio's stomping grounds in the city. I'm actually going there later. But anyways, they actually just raised the minimum wage to $15 an hour for, I believe, state workers. And I feel as though that is going to hurt jobs, right? We want to grow our economy, then we would want people to be employed. And if someone's getting $15 an hour where their wage used to be $7 or $8 an hour, well, then half the company is going to lose their jobs. It's very simple. So I think that, as Rick always says, the truth is often in the middle. And whereas I think Republicans tend to be too right on social and science issues, I think they are spot on when it comes to many fiscal issues. But, of course, I just want to say before I stop this rant, I still fully support Bernie Sanders for president. Why? Because we will never get anything done in this country if money in politics is not changed. And the only person who seems to be serious about that is Bernie Sanders. All right, now I'm done.
Love how you had to throw the Bernie Sanders thing in there, but let's remember that the guy that you just touted and said would be awesome for the country is the same one that wants to basically do the whole redistribution of wealth, which is another way of saying that. Look at it from the corporate perspective, from the research that you're doing in your economics class. That is the private citizen version of raising the minimum wage. What exactly does it accomplish?
Very true. And I'm learning that I disagree with him on a lot more issues than I agree with him on. But again, I think that if we really want to get any debate done, any work done in our government, we want to get it to work again for the people, we need a candidate who wants to get this money out of politics. And do I agree that we should have the redistribution of wealth? Absolutely not. Actually, this, 2 days ago, I walked into a frozen yogurt shop, and I was with my girlfriend, and we saw this girl who used to go to our high school. And our high school is one of the best public high schools in New Jersey. And I thought about it for a minute. She was given the opportunity to go to a great school. Now, I'm not saying she comes from the same background as me. Absolutely not. Of course, she's far more disadvantaged from the start than I was. But she still had that opportunity. And it's what you make of that opportunity. So the fact that she's, working here, I shouldn't feel bad for that. I feel like she chose to do that through, her own stupidity. She had the opportunity by going to a great high school. And unfortunately, she blew it. So it kind of led me to the feeling like, should we feel bad for these people and help them out? Well, to an extent. And I feel as though when you give somebody an education, like the one that was afforded to me, to someone like that, then I can't feel bad for them when they end up working at a frozen yogurt shop 4 years after they graduated. But such is life.
All right, but see, this is the thing. You are starting to see things from more than one perspective. This is the thing that has always been important to me. It's what started Finding Common Ground. Because, look, I am a conservative. I will always be a conservative, but I will be the first one to tell you that there are certain people that don't consider me conservative because of some of the things that you mentioned during your message that you sent to me. But let's backtrack for a second because you threw a lot out there at the beginning. Because let me give you the perspective of most conservatives when it comes to abortion. And this is the stuff that the candidates are not going to tell you. Most conservatives understand that the genie is out of the bottle. We're not asking that it be put back into the bottle. We're asking that Roe v. Wade be enforced as it was written and as the judges' consenting and dissenting opinions illustrated, which is that abortion should be safe, legal, and rare. Everybody seems to miss that last point. We're killing hundreds of thousands of babies a year as a form of birth control. That is not rare. There are other ways to have birth control, and I understand that not all of those things are going to work all of the time. But if we would teach the things that do work instead of saying, don't worry about it. It feels better without a condom, so you can just have an abortion. I mean, come on. That is not what this law was intended for. It was intended to keep terrified young women who had things happen to them or had made bad decisions from killing themselves by shoving a coat hanger somewhere where a coat hanger is not supposed to go. It wasn't supposed to be a form of contraception.
No, absolutely. And I 100% agree with you on that. My problem is when we talk about overturning Roe v. Wade or... I agree. I was actually reading the majority opinion on Roe v. Wade and how it clearly states up until the first trimester, you're fine. After that, it's the state's decision. And I've always agreed with that. And I actually think after the first trimester, then, you know what? Maybe we can consider banning it. But the problem is if we ban it completely, which even you just said, no one's really trying to argue for, then you're just going to increase illegal ones, unsafe ones. And the fact of the matter is I have said this so many times, is that we need to teach more birth control and shove it down people's throats in public space, in schools, in public offices, in health centers. There should be free contraception. And my school runs this thing called the Academic Forum. One year it was on abortion. And we had a lady come in who's pro-life. She was speaking from the New Jersey Pro-Life Society. And the thing that bothered me the most with her was that while she was against abortion, she was simultaneously saying how she was against birth control. And to me, it's like, I don't understand, because these people believe that abstinence is, the only way it'll work. But unfortunately, that's not reality. Okay.
So first point, using the phrase "shoving it down their throats" probably not best word choice.
Okay, good. All right, fair enough.
Now, on to the abstinence argument. Let me give you the perspective of a 42-year-old man. If I had known what I know now about what happens when you share that experience with someone, whether it's multiple times or one time, I would have waited. Now, I know from the young perspective that doesn't make any sense because you guys are all driven by hormones and emotions and everything else. So, I understand that from your perspective, what the folks that are saying abstinence will work if it's tried, we're coming at you realizing that we've already made the same mistakes that you are about to make, and we're trying to keep you from making them. Because the simple fact of the matter is, I don't know if you've forayed into that yet, and I don't want to know. But I can tell you that I have been with very few people in my life. But the problem is there's always an emotional attachment that remains once you cross that line. It never goes away. And that's one of the reasons why everybody says, look, this should not be something that you do at parties just for fun. This should not be, hey, this feels good, so let's do it. It's important. It means something. And the simple fact of the matter is, even if you don't think it does, it changes you when you commit that act with someone. It physically and emotionally changes you. So there are a group of people that are looking back on the mistakes that they've made going, please do not do what I have done, because it messes with your head. It literally messes with your head.
But
now,
the thing is...
Go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so the thing is that while we can preach that to people who can think clearly and understand exactly what you're saying, we need to prepare the people who aren't going to listen. Now, it even goes so far. I was watching a John Oliver episode where people from these groups that preach abstinence compare the girls to being chewed up pieces of gum and horrible, horrible things. Now, of course, people make mistakes, and I agree with what you just said. But we need to prepare kids and teens or whatever for the worst case scenario and prepare them for what is to come so that that worst case scenario doesn't have to happen.
So hang on a second. I don't want to get too far away from what you just said because it correlates to something else that we're going to be talking about later. Why is it that liberals always want to prepare for the worst case scenario when it comes to things like sex and children, but they don't want to prepare for the worst case scenario when you see the things that are going on in Paris right now and half the liberals still have their heads in the sand? I don't understand how the two can be mutually exclusive, because I understand that we need to prepare children. My issue with your idea of making birth control completely free and readily available to everybody, there's going to be a good percentage of the population that you're going to enable to do things that they might not necessarily have done without access to that birth control. That's my other issue with it. And I understand that that's another one of those genie out of the bottle type of situations, and it's never going to go away. But that's the reason why I'm not a fan of just freaking going down Main Street on a parade throwing out condoms, because there's going to be plenty of people that are going to use them just because they can. That's my problem.
I think, one, it takes two to tango.
Not necessarily.
Hopefully it does. But I just feel as though, and we can see this through many of the Scandinavian countries that already do offer birth control much more readily, that they have some of the lowest teen pregnancy rates. So if we really want to stop abortion, the best way we can do it is by stopping pregnancy. And the best way to do that is to increase access to birth control. I don't see decreasing abortion legitimately without increasing access to birth control, because we can't rely on abstinence. As much as it would be a nice thought in a perfect world, we don't live in one. So for those reasons, I would have to concede this point to the notion that we need to increase birth control. But let's get to Paris.
I figured we'd actually deal with that after the break, because we're about to take
a break. Oh my God, 21 minutes just flew by.
I know, right? But anyway, so
I guess when you talk about sex, it just rolls.
Talk about what?
When you talk about sex, the time rolls on.
Well, you're young. You're still excited about it. Some of us are like, whatever. Been there, done that. No, I'm just playing. All right. So anyway, back to this. My point is, why can we not do both?
No, I think we can. I just don't think it should be taught. I think it should be taught more as so not, sex until you're married, no sex until you're married. I think it should be taught, more so when you're ready, when you find that right person, then you do it.
Okay, but hang on a second, because you bring up another good point, but here's my problem with that. At 16, 17, 18 years old, you don't know who the right person is yet. There's a part of your brain that's not even functional yet that lets you know when you're making really, really bad choices. That doesn't kick in until 25. So we're still right back where we started from. And here's my problem with all of it. Let's just be completely open and honest with it right now. My issue is not that, there are high school kids that would have access to condoms, or there's a class where they're going to teach them how to put them on a freaking banana. My problem, because honestly, that is an issue for me, but it's not the big issue. I'm not real fond of my daughter learning how to, anyway. But back to my main problem. My main problem is the folks that are more on your side of the argument are making the year that children learn about things like sex and how to use a condom and how to take a birth control pill properly younger and younger and younger and younger. This is why so many of us are fighting tooth and nail and have our feet dug in with our heels to stop what you guys call progress, because we have schools in California now that are teaching kids about condoms in kindergarten. Why the hell does a kindergartner need to know about a condom? This is what your parents should have used, and then I wouldn't have to be teaching you right now, you little snot-nosed brat. Really?
I've never heard that. And if that is true, then I completely disagree with that. That's not what I wanted. That's not what my message is. My message is clear that, around the time, I would say in 5th grade, I remember all the kids watched the lesson on health about puberty. And then in middle school, they do it again. And they talk about, like the moderate version of STDs, sex. They try to scare you. And in high school, they talk about contraception. And I feel as though, unfortunately, in the area that I live in, in the tri-state area or whatever, I believe it's 1 in 4 people between the ages of 21 to 28 have an STD.
Hey, don't be dissing the tri-state area. My show's on in the tri-state area now. WNJC 1360 AM. Sorry, I had to get the plug in there.
That was a good throw-in. I'll give you that. So I feel that it only makes sense that if we, you can't have your cake and eat it too in this sense. So, yes, of course, no, don't teach kids about condoms in kindergarten. That's a bad idea. I've never heard about that. That must be an isolated case. And if it's not, then that's a problem.
Google is your friend. I'm just saying.
Well, I will look into that, definitely. But for people in high school and on, I think the message should be just when you're ready. And even though you might make a mistake, that's life. Life is full of mistakes. But even if you make a mistake, be safe when you're making that mistake. And you'll find out later whether or not you made that mistake. But I'd rather you make a mistake and not it result in a baby than you make a mistake and, now you're a daddy or a mommy. I think that would be a bigger problem. You don't want the manifestation of that mistake.
Okay, but and this is probably where we're going to let this lie because it is about time to take a break. But even if it results in a mistake, unless it's something where you were absolutely not even a willing participant, or it's something where it is absolutely possibly going to kill you to have this child, there are alternatives to abortion. That's all I'm saying.
No. All right, no, of course there are. And I've met people who took those alternatives. There are many problems that come with it, of course. So, it's totally up to the person, and if they find it very early, I'm talking within the first trimester, then perhaps you can do as you wish. And after that, I disagree. I say, you waited long enough. Now this child has neurological connections. It has a heartbeat. It's time that you can, have it and do as you will. But my biggest problem with the right-wing Seams agenda with abortion is they say you have to have this baby. But when that baby's born, there's no free health care. There's no maternity leave. There's no social programs that keep up with the force that the right-wing agenda pushes to have that baby. So it should be continuous throughout life. You're pro-life, then we should be pro-life forever, right? Life should be the greatest thing, and we're not giving people the best what they deserve. I believe we should have a much better healthcare system, but it's terrible. So, I don't know.
Okay, so, and this is where the dichotomy of the decisions that you are starting to be able to make on your own are still coming into play rather glaringly, because on one hand, it seems like you are espousing a few more conservative ideals, but on the other hand, you still want the government to hand you everything. I don't want the government to hand me anything. When I talk about healthcare, I've really adopted the point of view, kind of a cross between Thailand and Scandinavia, where you have entirely free market healthcare for the middle class and the upper class. Entirely free market. Let's get rid of the insurance companies, and for those people who make below the poverty line, they get socialized medicine. That way, no one falls behind. Prices stay cheap for everybody. If you have the money, you can see the best doctors you wish. But at the end of the day, healthcare costs in socialized countries where they use socialized medicine are the cheapest. Where there's no insurance companies, we also see the cheapest. And when we have a free market, we have the most efficient. So I think a good, honest cross between the two, where we have no crony capitalism like we have today, will be the best option. So I think that idea is right in the middle. So basically, you're asking for Thailandavia.
I'm sorry, what?
You're asking for Thailandavia.
What's Thailandavia?
Crossover between Thailand and Scandinavia.
Oh, yeah, Thailandavia.
All right. But anyway, I mean, what you're talking about is actually something that a lot of us have been talking about for a while, and it's what we say should have happened with Obamacare.
I agree, but I don't think it would have. I think the liberals would have said, "Are you kidding me, a free market?" And then the Republicans would have said, "Socialized medicine?" And it would never have worked.
But see, here, there's another reason it wouldn't have worked, and we've talked about this before. Obama wants socialized medicine because it's a building block for the next step of the things that he wants to do. And there are a lot of folks that claim to be on the right that want socialized medicine as well, much like there are folks on the right and the left that both want illegal immigration for different reasons. The problem is there really is no difference between the parties anymore, and it's evident by the fact that all they really do is stick on 6-7 hot-button issues that are going to keep people pissed off and fighting with each other instead of focusing on the things that we could actually do if we would work together to make a difference. Now, speaking of things that have pissed people off, when we come back from the break, we're going to take a quick foray into these black-only safe zones that are popping up throughout campuses. Then for the last part of the show, we are going to change gears and talk Paris and whether or not we should be concerned here. But when we come back, we do have to take a break real quick. So time to pay some bills. We'll be back in a few.
They say we offer simple answers to complex problems, but perhaps there is a simple answer, not an easy answer.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
The internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all! What is it good for? Absolutely! Let's get started again.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Wondering why you're up early with us on a Sunday morning making a cocktail? News lately got you drinking? Hung over from the mainstream media by Sunday? We are, and we got you covered.
We sure do. We got your hangover cure for those weekly news blues. So sit back, top off your mimosa, and add some Baileys to that coffee.
Take a match to your copy of the New York Times. Light, funny, and oh yeah, news with booze.
And a lot of laughter.
Welcome to Bloody Marys and Broadsheets.
The staff of K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network is proud to announce that our very own Rowdy Rick Robinson has been selected as one of the top conservative talk show hosts in the nation for his program America Off the Rails. Again, congratulations to Rowdy Rick Robinson for a job well done and another reason to stay connected to K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
Our military service members volunteer to protect us in the most dangerous places around the world. They step up. And when they are severely ill or injured, returning to their families is only the beginning of their long road home. Wounded Warrior Project provides these brave men and women whatever they need to continue their fight for independence at no cost for life. So now it's time for a grateful nation to step up. Join us at findwwp.org.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. And before I forget, I want to give a very special happy birthday shout out to my youngest son who turned 15 today, who is not listening to me today because he's out with some friends and having fun on his birthday, but I will see him later today. The joys of having a teenage son. You try to hang out with them, they have better things to do. I'm just saying. All right, so before we went to break, we did promise we were going to at least touch on the safe zone situation that's popping up all over the place. And we're not going to spend too much time on this because there's been much more important stories that have broke since last night. And I actually took a break from most of it and stayed out of it because I didn't want to seem as crazy as all of the people that were all over social media freaking out over Paris. But I have to say, the longer I've stayed out of it, the more angry that I've gotten about it because there are just so many people with their heads in their sands, their heads in the sand. But we'll talk about that in a minute. What I want to talk about when it comes to this safe zone stuff is the fact that I'm pretty sure that right now folks like Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks are probably spinning in their graves at warp speed because there's an entire generation of African Americans, Black Americans, whatever you want to call them, that fought to end segregation. And now we have what appear to be groups that are willfully on their own reinstating segregation, but from what they feel is a position of moral superiority because now they don't feel safe being around other races because they're not being treated fairly. I don't understand this, especially as more and more is coming out about the original incident that sparked it in Missouri. Turns out that a lot of what everybody was going off of apparently didn't actually happen the way it was portrayed. Big surprise there. But I really don't understand, again, how it is that the nation that claims that we are wanting to be home to everybody who does what they're supposed to do to get here. I mean, I'm not even going to talk illegal aliens at this point because the simple fact of the matter is if you got here by breaking the law, you really don't deserve to be here, and that's just exactly how I feel about it. And if you don't like that, that's fine. There's a million other people that you can listen to that do shows like these every day. I don't care. I'm done pulling punches when it comes to this stuff, especially after what's going on in Paris. But the thing that we need to understand is there is an entire group of young people that have suddenly decided to give away everything that an entire older generation fought for because now they want to basically resegregate themselves. And that's a serious issue to me. I mean, I see memes making fun of it, and I actually, on my show, will be making fun of it from this point forward until I get bored with it. But at the same time, it's a pretty serious thing to think about when you think about that there's an entire group of young people that just say, screw it, I only want to hang around with my own kind. Fuck everybody else. Just saying. If there was a whites only group that popped up all of a sudden, and was, more than just the crazy KKK that's been around for forever, the news would be talking about it nonstop. But since it's people of a minority group that all of a sudden have said, screw it, I'm only going to hang around with my people anymore, everybody else can go away. Yeah, everybody's touting them as heroes and brave and blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. I'm just going to call it like it is. You're just as racist as the KKK.
I agree. I don't understand. And here's the thing. Like you said, all the great African-American, social justice fighters, Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King they already did their flips in their grave. They're spinning like, warp drive, like you said, because the answer to the problem of racism is not going to go away by racism. It just won't. And I really blame not the African American community for this. I blame the media for this. Because on one hand, you have MSNBC, who covers, the shooting death of Freddie Gray or of, what was his name? In Missouri. Why am I forgetting his name? I'm drawing a blank. What's his name?
Missouri? I don't know.
Who was the guy who got shot in Missouri? In the street? Michael Brown. We have him.
Oh, that was Missouri, wasn't it? Sorry, I only ever remember the name of the town. For some reason I'd forgotten that Ferguson was in Missouri.
So we have the liberal, side of the media, the MSNBC saying, young black man shot dead in street. That's the title. And then on Fox News, you have, police officer defends himself. And it really just creates a dichotomy between what the listeners are seeing. And you don't get to the facts. Because the facts always come out later. And all too often we see that these young black men are actually the antagonists. Now, whereas the cops perhaps could have handled it differently. Like, in the case with that schoolgirl. Whatever she was doing, if I was a father and that was my daughter, I'd be furious. I'd be lit about that. And that's no way, regardless of what happened, for an adult to handle a child. Yes, I see a problem there. Is it because she's black, though? I don't know. And I'm sick of hearing on one side of the media we say, these black lives are being treated, terribly by the cops. On the other side, you hear, the cops are doing everything right. There's somewhere in the middle we should find. That while in all instances, no, racism is not necessarily the trigger that pulled the gun. Or the finger that pulled the gun. It's, in many cases, self-defense on the side of the police. And in many cases, the police perhaps shouldn't have reacted the way they did. So there's somewhere in the middle is the perfect way to put it. Just like you've said, the truth is often in the middle. And right now we see a dichotomy where we have one side who's incredibly pro-cop and the other side who is incredibly pro the whole Black Lives Matter movement. And the day we find a uniting force somewhere in the middle, like a Martin Luther King, maybe we can get the movement back on track. Because if they want equality, it's not equality to create a safe zone, which is, in all honesty, ridiculous. But, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is just nuts. And, like I said, at this point, that was actually going to be my focus. I was actually still planning on doing a live show last night. I actually got co-opted by the wife about halfway through the day and said, it's been about 3 weeks since we went on a date. So I was like, one more replay, one heard. And then all this stuff with Paris broke, and I'm like, probably a good thing I didn't do a show last night anyway, because I would have sounded like a raving lunatic. Because everything that's going on over there is the same thing that I've been screaming about for months that is eventually going to happen over here. And it just...
Let me ask you, but before we move on to Paris, just real quick, I have a debate next week. And the debate topic is All Lives Matter is preferable to Black Lives Matter. And I am debating on the side that all lives matter. So I'm curious, what is your position? Because I understand that Black Lives Matter doesn't mean that all lives don't matter. It just means Black Lives Matter as well. So what is your position?
Well, let me give you my perspective on it, because I don't think that Black Lives Matter necessarily means that they're just trying to bring emphasis to the fact that Black Lives Matter. I think the group that is behind BLM is starting to focus on the idea that Black Lives Matter more. And you're seeing that evidenced by the things that we've talked about folks that you've wanted to interview that have told you that they will only do the interview with people of color. You now see these safe zone places popping up where if you're not black, we don't want you here. And and that's been my concern all along. I understand what everybody wanted, that the whole free to be you and me, hug a tree, hippie types that are all warm and fuzzy. I know what they wanted Black Lives Matter to mean, but that's not what it means, and that's not what it's for. They are, at this point, trying to assert themselves as the dominant force, as far as they are concerned, because it's going to turn into a Black Pride movement, and it's going to do all of these things that are going to further divide the country. And if you don't believe me, because it's not happening now, but it's starting to, and this is one of those things where we're coming to a fork in the road. There's one direction where things will go back to normal and everything will go back to the way it ought to be, where we're all Americans and that should come first. Or there's the other fork in the road where we're going to keep dividing and keep class warfare alive. And you tell me after the last 7 years which direction you think this country is going to go.
Yeah. All right. Good points. Good points. Thank you.
All right. So we are down to about 7-8 minutes. So I definitely want to at least go ahead and make sure that we talk about Paris. Mainly because the first thing I want to do is just say, for anybody who might be listening from Paris today, because we are heard around the world and occasionally we get pop-ups from weird places where they don't always listen. In the event that there is someone from Paris or even France listening today, all of America is with you, despite what our president is currently saying. I'm just going to throw that out there. See, the thing that annoys me about all of this, and this is going to be one of those times where there's going to be some people that are going to turn off the show, but I don't care. The simple fact of the matter is, we had our president 12 hours before all of this broke loose talking about how ISIS didn't really matter anymore. We had them contained. They were no longer an issue because we had taken out Jihadi John. And now the next thing you know, there's a very well coordinated attack happening in Paris and a hashtag that has popped up in Arabic that is now being used to outline the next few places they are planning on trying to have attacks, some of which are here. So the fact that we have a president who goes on national TV and continually lies to the American people within hours of a mass tragedy, whether it's before or after, is sickening to me.
Well, I didn't hear necessarily what he said. I heard that him talk about bringing these people to justice. And I don't blame the president. I think the president has helped to keep this country safe. Under his administration, we've had, some of the best counter-terrorist programs operated. And in Europe, it's a totally different story, especially because their geographical location. Now, accepting 100,000 refugees, we might be a little more hesitant now. I'll be honest about that.
We will be. They won't be.
That might be true. And if
No, there's no might. Remember, this is the same guy that promised that before the end of his administration he was going to close Guantanamo. Both parties are opposed to that with wide margins. The general American populace is opposed to that with wide margins. But he has already said, before the end of my term, Guantanamo will be closed. It will be placed before Congress, and if they don't do it, I will. That's my point. We at this point can stand up and yell and scream and kick and fight as loud as we want to. Our government's not listening to us anymore. They don't give a crap.
Thus, hashtag Bernie. No, but seriously.
More like hashtag F Bernie.
We really... I don't understand what we can do, though. Can we kill our way out of this? I don't know. You can build all the walls you want. But it just seems that this problem is going to need some serious thinking to get out of.
I don't think there's a quick or easy way out of it.
In all honesty, I really believe that NATO and maybe Russia should team up to just take over Syria. Why not?
Okay, so you want Vladimir Putin to take over Syria?
Like I said before. Let's make the United Nations into an entire country. And let's make the center of the world Syria. I don't know, because why not?
NATO's a joke!
That's true.
Besides, you just advocated the New World Order. You realize that, right?
Yeah, kind of. I just, anything to get this
bad form for a juicer. Bad form.
Yeah, very true. That is true. Okay, I will backtrack on that one. I just feel that the way to solve this problem isn't by just killing our way out. Yes, there are people we cannot reason with, and the people who committed the atrocities last night are an example of those people. But what we can do is prevent people from turning into that. And I think we need to do it through education, through, open arms, essentially. Friendliness.
Yeah, because that's working out so well everywhere else. That's exactly what's causing this problem. We have an entire segment of the world's population that opened their borders and their arms open wide and said, come here, we will protect you. Screw you, we want to kill you instead. This is the problem when you start dealing with ideologues. And I'm going to catch flack for this, and I know I am, but I don't care. I'm sorry, you really cannot tell what is supposed to be a normal Muslim from a crazy Muslim until you see what they're going to do. That's my problem with it. This is not like the whole thing in World War II where an entire race of people were being segregated for U.S. protection. That's not the same thing. What we want to do is try to make sure that we're not allowing the crazy people into the country. There has to be a way to be able to do that. But the problem is, and where we keep running into the fear issue is, you can't really tell a normal Muslim from a crazy Muslim until they put on a bomb vest. That's what Paris found out last night. They let all these people into the country thinking that they were letting the good ones in. And now all of a sudden there have been coordinated attacks all over Paris in response to both Syria and likely what happened with Jihadi John. And what saddens me is whoever thought in our lifetimes we would see a time where Paris finds their spine while we lose ours. I've never heard the Paris president in my life say, or the president of France, I'm sorry, in my life say that all of that these heinous acts will be dealt with and the perpetrators will be brought to a swift justice and we will do whatever we have to do to keep the country safe, while Obama's like, not ISIS, nope, not ISIS. And they're over here screaming that they did it. But our president's like, nope, don't jump to any conclusions. It's not ISIS. It can't be ISIS because that doesn't fit my narrative, folks, so it can't be ISIS.
No, I will agree that as of late, if not during most of his term, Obama has made us look weak around the world. We need another Teddy Roosevelt who has the balls to send a fleet of ships around the world, warships around the world. That is strength. And we were the first country to circumnavigate the globe with military ships, and I think we should do it again. I commend President Obama for putting a military ship in the Yellow Sea to stand up to China somewhat, but we need to not be afraid to pull these triggers. Tell Russia to stop. I love when what's her name? Carly Fiorina says we're going to put our troops back into the Balkan Seas. We're going to put missiles back into Turkey and Poland. These ideas kept Russia at bay, and now when we take them out, look at Russia. So it's the same type of thing with these ideologues coming out of Syria and Iraq or wherever. The way to fix this problem, I honestly think, is not supplying all these people with military technology and aid. That's not going to work. The only way I see this genuinely working is if the people in the area revolt and do it themselves. No other country came and reformed the United States. No other country came and reformed France. It was the people of those countries who wanted change so badly that they revolted against their hires. And if ISIS is the higher up or whatever in Syria or wherever, it's time for the people to stand up and say enough is enough. And until they do that, nothing is going to change. No amount of bullets, no amount of F-16s, no amount of tanks are going to change the situation. As much as I would love for all these countries to just adopt Western-style society, they're not going to. But I think they can get close to it, such as Egypt, if the people want it, if the people show that they're not going to just leave their country. We had Lithuania open its borders, and we had less than 1% of the Muslims leaving Syria, the refugees leaving Syria, go to Lithuania. Because they could get the better package, social programs in Germany, in Scandinavia. That's not being a refugee, that's being an immigrant. A refugee is seeking somewhere for their families to be safe. So, I don't know. I think it's terrible. And of course you're going to have members of ISIS slip through the cracks. I don't understand how we can't see that happening beforehand, which amazes me.
That's the thing. We can see it happening beforehand. Our current government and administration just wants to completely ignore the obvious. There have been more than one report filed by the FBI letting them know that of these groups that they keep raising the numbers that we are going to allow to come in, anywhere from 1% to 10% of this group population will likely be terrorists hiding among the folks that we are considering refugees. The simple fact of the matter is we already don't know how many of them are here. That's just like we don't know that the attacks that were done in Paris last night had anything to do with the refugees that recently came in, because Paris already had no-go zones. They've had them for forever, where if you weren't a Muslim, you weren't welcome. And that's part of the problem. These people do not want to assimilate. They want to dominate. This is the argument that I get into every single time when I start hearing all of these people that want to compare the Christian Crusades to the fact that we have this group rising up now, which are the Muslims. What nobody wants to take into account, and what nobody wants to actually go back and look, is what actually triggered the Christian response to the Crusades. It wasn't that we suddenly decided that the Muslim people needed to die. It was because we had seen them be barbarians across the globe in places like Spain and other places, and nobody was able to do anything about it. So the Christian groups as a whole came together and decided it was time to put these people back where they belong. Otherwise, we were looking at world domination. We're seeing it happen again, except now nobody wants to look at it. Nobody wants to call it what it is. I will not be one of those people, even if it means that nobody ever listens to my show again. I will not sit down. I will not shut up. And I will not be one of the ones that says we can just go along to get along. No, because there is a large number of this population that we cannot do that with. And that is evident when they start talking about the fact, well, only 20 to 25% of the Muslim population are extremists. Do you realize how many Muslims there are? 20 to 25% of that population would take up this entire country. That's a problem.
I've heard the statistic, what is it? 5% of the Germans were Nazis. 7 to 10% are extremist Muslims of the current population in Islam. And when you run the numbers, there's 1.4 billion Muslims. 7% of them is bigger than all of Nazi Germany times like 5. So, yes, we have a big problem.
Pretty much. All right. Well, we did seem to find common ground there because we're both agreeing there's a problem. Just neither one of us knows what the hell we need to do about it. But as my parting shot, just because I know I've annoyed a lot of folks today, I'm going to tell you what I wish we could do. And that would be round up all of the extremists, send them back to the Middle East, and turn it into glass. End of show.
Rick, if it was that easy.
Hey, I'm just saying, in a perfect world, that would be exactly what we would do. There would be some way that we could identify all of the extremists. I don't care what religion they're associated with. Get them all in one place and turn it into a glow-in-the-dark factory of some kind. I don't know. But anyway, at this point, I know you've got things to do, and I got things to do, so I think we need to get out of here. Up next will be a replay of Opinion Nation, and don't forget, America Off the Rails will be tomorrow morning on Red State Talk Radio. For those of you who like to get up early and have a cup of coffee, don't forget to come hang out with me over there. I'll be back live Monday night at my new scheduled time of 11 p.m. Eastern. I don't know what I was thinking when I came up with that idea, but hey, it's been pretty good. We've had some pretty decent numbers now that I'm part of the late night crowd, but at this point, I guess we got to get out of here. Anything else you want to say before we cut it?
Let's turn Syria into the New World Order.
Really?
Yeah, Bernie Sanders 2016. You know the shtick.
Yeah, speaking of shtick, I'm about to reach through this microphone and never mind.
Oh, Lord. All right. Have a good week, everybody.
All right, guys, we're out. Up next, we will have Opinion Nation News. As soon as that concludes, we will actually be joining in progress. WNJC 1360's own Rick Trader, the conservative commando, is doing a special episode of his show today, so we'll actually be streaming that live. So don't go anywhere. Lots of radio left for a Saturday, which is one of our usual slower days, but we got lots of stuff going on. So don't go away. We'll be right back. Maybe. There we go.
They say we offer simple
I'm out, folks.
complex
Bye.
Problems. But perhaps there is a simple answer. Not an easy answer, but simple.
It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground. It's common ground.
We have serious problems to solve, and we need serious people to solve them.
Republicans and Democrats.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.